Hello, this is Haiku here for the Murders at Karlov Manor set review for the Black Commons. Going through the Black Commons, there's going to be a couple strong standout cards, but overall, just kind of some flexible stuff for limited. So starting off with Slice from Shadows, this is a overcosted removal spell, not constructed playable. Agency Coroner, this card, unfortunately, at 5 mana is just too expensive. 3/6 is actually a pretty good stat line, but 5 mana is too expensive to be playable and constructed. Alley Assailant, same issue here. When you play it as a vanilla 3/3 for 3, that's fine, but the disguise cost is just way too expensive. That I don't think this is playable. You don't really want a vanilla 3/3 in any black deck. Basilica Stalker, just way too expensive for these cards to be. Obviously, once they're in play and they're not dealt with, they're great, but too expensive. Cerebral Confiscation, the flexibility between a Mind Rot and a Thoughtseize is not good enough to make this see play. Okay, so now here's the first playable card, and it's a doozy. It's a really great one. So last time we got Tithing Blade for a permanent that edicted the opponent, and now we get a sorcery that is able to edict the opponent on Arena. So we haven't had either edict before at 2 mana. So this one is going to be nice for the Mystic Sanctuary terror decks that want instants and sorceries in their yard, and so you can bring it back with Mystic Sanctuary, and it makes your terrors cheaper, which is nice. We even get a nice little buff with Collect Evidence. It's really easy to collect evidence. Unfortunately, it doesn't quite play well with the card that this wants to play with is Lorien Revealed, but it's only only a 5 mana card, so you need another card to go with it. It does work well with the Troll, which is in its colors, but I think you're probably going to see this more in the blue-black spell-based decks. So, which will be a solid player in those decks. Edicts are always pretty good, and then when you can edict their biggest creature, that's even better. So this is probably the best card of the black cards. Macabre Reconstruction, this is another good shout out. We've had basically another style of these pick 2 creatures up from your graveyard, and there's been multiple different ways to make it cheaper. If you gained enough life, if you attacked, if you dealt damage, all these different ways. This one's going to be fine. It's much easier to trigger, but I think most of these effects, you want the ones that have the mill attached at instant speed. Those are going to be a little bit better, even though those are at 3 mana than Reconstruction. But those are always very, very relevant in the formats that we don't have Graveyard Hate, which is basically Explorer Pauper and Standard Pauper. In Historic Pauper, I think there's enough hate between Bojuka Bog and Relic that we can keep this down, where this wouldn't be a very good card to play. Repeat Offender, it's just another 2/1 that grows over time. Unfortunately, these cards just are a little bit of a trap. Yeah, it's kind of cool that you can get it bigger and bigger, but it's just too easy for the opponent to answer, even after you've invested like 6 mana into it. Rot Farm Mortipede, a 4 mana 3/4 where it gets some life gain and evasion is pretty good, but unfortunately, I think it's a little bit too expensive because you're basically going to be looking for this effect against aggro, and that's a little bit too expensive. You have to cast it at 4 mana, and then you have to wait and be able to attack with it for the payoff to happen, and I don't think that's going to happen against an aggro deck on Arena. Snarling Gorehound, a really cool kind of combo-oriented card. 1 mana, 1/1, but it has these wonderful words, whenever, and there's no limit on how many times it can activate a turn, which is great. Right now, there's no way to utilize this. Mogwarts obviously can keep triggering this infinitely, but at that point, you would just wanted to finish the opponent with your Devil Citizen or any of your other spells that kill the opponent rather than surveil yourself. Menace is kind of interesting because it can go with Tentative Connections, but Tentative Connections has enough Menace creatures that it doesn't really need another one. So having another copy beyond the Frog, Unwilling Ingredient, and those other Menace cards, Akiba Reckoner Raid. I don't think we need another Menace creature at 1 mana, but it's there. So until we get a way to trigger this combo, then it will kind of stay on the sidelines, but this always is just a threat. Anytime there's whenever on the card, you're going to eventually see play. Toxin Analysis, a kind of cool card because it's a trick that allows you to gain a little bit of life and trade your creatures up, and then you also get your card back. This, I would say, this kind of equates to the You Are Already Dead and Mirrodin Avenge cards, but this is slightly different. It's much more prone to getting blown out because if you cast it on the creature before it deals damage, which you have to do, they can just kill it and you wouldn't get the Investigate off. So it's going to fit into just one deck, the Gouge Zealot decks, for the Death Touch part, and the Lifelink is going to be relevant. But I don't think overall it's going to be a major player. Maybe as a card of one of in the main decks of some decks. Unscrupulous Agent. We just got this effect. This exile 2 mana 1/1 exile opponent a card from the opponent's hand. So now we just pay attention to the typing. Elf might be relevant. Detective is certainly not relevant yet. So that's the black cards. There's also Murder, which from the name, I'm glad that they brought Murder, but obviously we've seen how Murder plays. Not too game breaking. So yeah, that's a black card. So just overall, the Edict is a standout card, and then we have some kind of role players that may or may not see play, but the Edict definitely will see play. See you.